Okay, time for another essay, and as with the previous video or two, I'm going to do a comparison. So I wrote an essay, which I consider to be band at 9, and I'll explain why, to compare with this essay so you can see the difference between the two and how the criteria actually work. So we've got this essay here, we've got my example we're going to have a look at, and I'm going to be referring to the criteria in connection with that. So let's have a look. First things first, how many gleeful words do we have? Well, we have 286. Okay, could be a little bit longer, but 286 will be fine. Opinion essay. Government investment in the arts, such as music and theatre, is a waste of money. Governments must invest this money in public service or public services instead. To what extent do you agree with this? Okay. It has been argued that spending money on art is considered a waste of money by... Right, now, this reads the state considers it a waste of money. It's state spending is considered a waste of money. So that's got off to a slightly poor start. So what we need is to put that there. Okay. Spending money on art by the state is considered a waste of money. I could not agree more. Well, just say I agree. This argument against the state whose main job is to protect its citizens, and also the arts should pay their expenses. Okay. That first part is clear, and also the arts should pay their expenses. You could have said because the state's main job is to protect its citizens and not pay for the arts, which should pay for themselves, or something. Protecting people in society is a prime responsibility of the state, rather than just providing them with some hobbies. Well, it's not a hobby, is it? I mean, it may be, but that's not really what they're doing. State expenditure on music and theatre, yeah. So it's not a sort of hobby, really. This is the main reason for government creation, or for the creation of government in the first place. Not strictly true, but I'm not going to go into political argument now, but no, good. But we don't really need that sentence. Not really. It doesn't move the argument along. So, protecting people in society is a prime responsibility of the state. I'm just providing them with some hobbies or entertainment like that. This is the main reason of government creation. Therefore, the state should allocate most of its expenditures for its people. Well, right, there's not a lot of progression there in those three sentences. You could have cut that down and put it into, so sentence 1, protecting people in society is a primary responsibility of the state. This is the main function of government, and most of the government expenditure should go on providing services for its citizens. For instance, healthcare, schools, blah, 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 So that would be more like a progression. This leads to this, leads to this, leads to that. Okay, so, for instance, if a state provides its people with a perfect healthcare system, they would be helped. Well, that's not necessarily true, is it? I mean, we have a perfectly good healthcare system in the NHS, but there's still people drinking and smoking and taking drugs. So just because there's a healthcare system does not necessarily imply that people would be healthier. Don't forget, a correlation does not equal causation. Okay, just because there's a good healthcare system doesn't mean to say that people would be healthier. This development needs a lot of money to prepare hospitals that employ scientists to tackle any health issues. The more governments invest on public service or public services or invest in, more protection could be provided. Okay. As music and now, okay, so we need something to connect these paragraphs. On the other hand, or however, or turning to, As music and theatre are entertainment, they should not put a financial burden on governments. This means that those entertaining forms should handle their expenses. Bit tricky to understand. Those entertaining forms should handle their expenses. I'm not quite sure what that means. For example, when I was in a concert, who, how, where, what, why, when, there were approximately 2,000 participants or audience members, because you're not really participating, are you? You're in the audience you are watching. And this shows that a concert can cover its expenses by drawing the attention of people. Well, just because you draw somebody's attention, this could have been a free concert. How do we know? It could have been like a free kind of festival, like Stonehenge, I don't know. Just because there's 2,000 people there. So, all right, you need to be a bit more focused, right? So, what concert, by whom? Presumably you bought a ticket. How much did you pay for the ticket? Times 2,000, etc. But what does this have to do with government expenditure? This example has nothing to do with government expenditure. What's it got to do with the government? You said you were in a concert, 2,000 people, and it shows it can cover its expenses. Well, yes, good. But what does that have to do with government expenditure? Nothing. So, this could happen by attracting some investors or advertise in companies, or simply charging for admission. You have to buy a ticket. So why do you need investors or advertising? If it's one of your top pop stars, they sell tickets. You don't need investors. Okay, in this case, if governments allocate budget or a budget, or if governments simply budget for this form of art, it will bring them nothing but wasting money. But what are you talking about? If you're selling tickets, right, if 2,000 people come and everybody pays $20, how much is that? That's $40,000. Is it not? I think so. My maths is terrible, but why should the government? So this doesn't make sense. It's got nothing to do with the argument. In my view, there's no need for state intervention to support art. Now, I would have probably gone for something else like the opera or ballet that often have government kind of subsidies. Especially in England, there's the National Ballet, there's a national, the Opera House. I think in other countries here in Europe, there's the State Opera House that gets some kind of government subsidy to keep it running, to pay, something such as that, because this does not really work. In conclusion, art is crucially important for governments and the citizens. It should not place an economic burden on government shoulders. Well, you haven't said anything that indicates that it does. I put great stress on this idea that state expenditure should be its main obligation. Okay. So that is good, but this paragraph number 3 doesn't really work. So, criteria time. Let's have a look and see what we can do. All parts of the prompt, well, no. I'm afraid not, because paragraph number 3 is basically irrelevant. It's nothing to do with the topic. All parts of a prompt, well, no. This is what the examiner will actually say. All parts of a prompt, some may be more fully covered. Okay. Partially, incompletely addressed. Now, you've got to be careful, because the examiners, this is what they will do. If they think that, you've gone off topic, this is what you will get for task response 5, and it'll pull the whole essay down. Let's just have another look. All right. Okay, so the question is, do you agree or not that government expenditure should be on public services and not on theatre art? etc. It should just be spent on public services. Okay. So what you would need to do here, what services? So you mentioned health. What about education, defence, police, law, etc. Welfare state, obviously, education. These are things the government should be spending on, not theatre, arts, etc. Okay, so protecting people, main responsibility, prime responsibility. Okay, main reason, state provides people with a healthcare system. Lots of money, healthcare is expensive. Oh, okay, so that's, more or less on topic. This paragraph here, though, they should not put, as music and theatre are forms of entertainment, they should not put a financial burden on governments. Well, who says that they are? Those entertaining forms, or forms of entertainment, should handle their expenses. But you give this example, you were at a concert, 2,000 people, and it can cover its expenses by drawing the attention of people and presumably charging them. Then you've got this about attracting some investors. But why would you need investors if you've got 2,000 people buying a ticket? And in this case, if the government puts some money into this, what? So you wouldn't have to pay? It would be kind of free? But you don't say that. So this is not really on topic, is it? I mean, I won't give it 5. I'll be generous and give it 6 because it's not fully covered. Okay, so you've got your position. It's relevant, kind of, except for paragraph 3, which isn't really relevant. Insufficiently developed. I think that's quite fair. Supporting arguments and evidence. Well, it's not relevant, is it? Talking about you at a fee-paying gig or concert, what's that got to do with government expenditure? I wouldn't go down to 5, up to 7, no, so I give it 6. Okay, cohesion and coherence. Cohesion in such a way it attracts no attention. Paragraphing is not bad. Logical sequence, not really. Progression, not really, not in paragraph number 3. Clear central topic, kind of. Reference substitution, logical, I'm going to be clear. I don't think it's that bad. Let me have another look. So, oops, that one's mine. Look at that in a minute. So, protecting people in a society, prime responsibility of a state. Okay. So we do have an example. That's for task response, but it's not a very good one. So, the money. Okay. The progression in paragraph 3 is not really that so good. It's circular. It's going round and round. It's not really working. No, I'll give it 7. Examiner may give it 6, but progression, I don't want to give it 5. I don't think it's that bad. It's not that bad. No. I'll be generous and give it 7. Examiner may not see it in the same way, but this is why you have 2 examiners. So we've got 6 and 7. Okay. Vocab. What's a vocab like? Do we have some natural, sophisticated use of vocab? Is it a wide range? Well, let's have another look. So word order. So prime responsibility of the state. Okay, expenditure. Allocate most of its expenditures or expenditure to people. Healthier, a lot of money. So that doesn't quite work. These entertaining forms and the expenses. Budget allocate. I think in general the vocab's not too bad. Rather restricted range. I don't think so. Some inappropriacies, ability. I give it 7. I don't think it's bad. I give it 6, 7, 7. Grammar. Well, wide range of structure, errors. Now, it's a number of sentences that you make without a mistake. Okie doke. So first, count the sentences. Right. So We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 sentences. Okay, so error-free sentences are frequent. It needs to be obviously more than half. So we've got 15 sentences. So, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That doesn't count. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the grammar's not too bad. I give it 8. Give it 8 for grammar. 8. It's not too bad. So give it 8. 7, 7, 6. So my maths is a little bit poor. So they say 6 and 7 is what? 13. 7 is 20. Plus 8 is 28. 14, 7. Okay. So I probably give this a 7. Now the examiner, again, I say, may a little bit harsher than I, but not too bad. So let's have a look at my example now to show you how I approached it, and how cohesion, coherence, and task response can be improved. Okay, so it has been argued that state expenditure on the arts is wasteful, and that instead of spending money on music and theatre, the government should direct its investment into public services. I agree with this, as the job of the state is to protect its citizens first of all, and as music and theatre are essentially entertainment, the private sector should provide for these. So it's essentially the same arguments that you put forward. In my view, the principal duty of government is to provide adequate healthcare, good schools, impartial judiciary, police force, among other vital functions. So that's the duty. Many citizens would no doubt agree and would support state money being spent on these services. So the duty of government is to provide certain services. Many citizens would support their taxes, state expenditure being spent on those. For example, a recent survey by the University of Edinburgh showed that 90% of people questioned said they had no issue with their taxes being spent on education, health, etc., which is kind of what you would expect. You would expect that most people would actually say, well, I'm paying taxes, and if I'm paying taxes to you, I want something back, something that, for the public, the general good, such as education, health, etc. So people would, they'd say, that's quite fair. Secondly, although music and theatre may be to some extent an important part of a nation's culture, so it's a bit of a concession, even though it could be important, it could be argued these pursuits are entertainment and therefore not part of the duties of the state to supply. So you can see how I've connected this with the idea in paragraph 2. What is the duty of the state? The duty of the state is to provide certain services, however, not entertainment. With high levels of taxation imposed on many citizens around the world, any country that spent money on these activities, referring to music and theatre, would have to show that the vital public services of the state were adequately provided for first. So, if you're paying high levels of taxation, you want to see where that money is going. So if you have a good education system and healthcare, etc., you might say, okay, you can spend some on subsidising the ballet, the opera, theatre, art, etc., but only if we've got these basic services first. That sounds perfectly fair. Therefore, such cultural activities would best be provided by the private sector, and any citizens who wish to take part in these entertainment should pay out of their own pocket. So, although art may be important, could be culturally important. It's essentially entertainment, not the duty of the state. The state is to spend on vital services, education, health, etc. So if anybody wants to take part in these kind of things, you should pay. Okay? In conclusion, although arts and music may be important in many ways, again, a concession, I believe the government should not pay for them. Not while there are important state services that need funding. If people want to see such cultural events, music, art, they should pay and support the private sector. Seems quite fair. Okie doke, now I'm going to compress this so I can get it all on the screen for you to look at later. So, all parts of the prompt, it's clear, the position is fully developed, directly answers the question. I don't think there's anything I could actually add. I think my arguments are pretty straightforward. We pay taxes for the government to provide certain services. As long as they do that, that's good. We don't want them spending on other things while other things are more important. So I think that's quite fair. Cohesion, coherence. Well, the message is pretty easy to follow. You don't need to interpret it. And more importantly, you've got a progression. You've got this logical sequence. This leads to this, leads to this, leads to this. Okay. The vocab and the grammar are good or perfect. Though we don't have to be perfect for a 9, but as I'm an Englishman, they should be. So I won't make any comment on those. Task, response, cohesion and coherence. Okay, so I'll just put this on the screen so you can compare. Okay, so you can see this. All right, and you can pause this and take a screen shot. Okay, and this is my Band 9 example. Okay, I hope that helps.